The life you live isn't real. And maybe you've heard this before, simulation theory and all these other things. Or maybe you've just questioned your reality like any good thinker would do. But if you're coming across this video, I'm here to give you evidence that your reality that you think is real is not the true reality. And you would say, well, how do you know this? What makes you so sure that you know that this is true? Well, I would say that it started when I was in my youth. I watched this movie called The Matrix, as a lot of people have. And in my youth, we didn't have cable TV, so we would watch the same movies over and over until we learned every word that they were going to say before they even said it. But there came a part in the movie The Matrix where Neo goes to sell this hard drive to these people that come knocking at his door. And he picks up this book. And when I seen the book, I paused it. And I said to myself, what is that book? It looked like funny language as a kid. I didn't really understand what the language was. But I was like, I want to know if this is a real book or not. And the book was called Simulacra and Simulation. And so I looked the book up to see if it was real. And I was like, oh, wow, it's actually a real book. And so I decided to go to Barnes and Nobles and I found it and I read it. And I thought that this has a lot of truth to it. And I can see how the Matrix started. And, you know, when you look at it, you know, a lot of people say, I pulled this up off the internet. It says, according to aficionados, it's pretty much the key to the whole thing. And what is the key to the whole thing? Why would he pick up this book? Why would they show this book? Everything has to happen for a reason, in my assumption. And so when you look up, well, what's the definition of that? You know, say in simulacra are copies that depict things that are either had no original or no longer have an original. Simulation is the imitation of the operation of a real world process or system over time. And I think that if you are able to look around, you can see so many things that prove that our reality isn't what we think it is. And what would be things that prove this? I would say GTA. You know, it's a world that you get to immerse yourself in, and you can do things as though it is the real world, even though you're the player, and you can go about living it any way that you choose to desire. And then when things don't go as you would plan, or you get wasted, and then you just start all over and you get to do it again, and it just continues on. And you would say, well, what does that have to do with real life? Well, there's another game that humans created, which is called The Sims. And The Sims is a game, if you haven't played it, where basically you live out this person's life that you created, and your job is to keep them alive. You make sure that they eat, they go to work, they have children, you can create the setting, you can buy things, build things. Funny how it imitates life. Now, is this art imitating life, or is life imitating art? And as you start to think about how it is that we were able to create these things, what would give somebody the idea? Well, obviously, life gave somebody the idea that I can live a life that isn't real, but we play it as though it is real. And you could say, well, what does that have to do with my life or real life? How can a video game or a movie that has a book, which I highly recommend, by the way, it actually is a real book. You should get it. It's a great book. Tells us, well, you know, simulacra is something that it either has no actual beginning or it is so far from its original beginning that the original beginning does no longer exist. And we talk about how, oh, well, humans have evolution and we evolved from monkeys or whatever those thoughts are. And the simulation is something that is representing something that isn't actually real, but it plays out as though it's real. I think that there's things in art that show us that it's not real. For instance, if you ever watch The Hunger Games, Katniss is looking up at the person who's watching, right? And what happens? She shoots the sky. And she's able to break the sky, cutting off the people being able to watch her and look at her and monitor her on what she's doing, right? He would represent the same guy in the Matrix when he goes into the room and there's TVs everywhere and he's dressed in all white, the architect. Why would these similar movies have similar things? Do you think that they're trying to tell us something or not? Or maybe that's just a coincidence, right? But then there's another movie where the same thing happens. And in Godzilla, he does the same thing. He looks to break the sky, and the sky looks very similar, right? To the same sky. Yeah. Oh, I lost it playing around. But it looked very similar to the same sky when Katniss shoots the sky. And where are they at? Are they in real life? They're not in real life. They're in a simulated version of life that is simulating actual life. And there's trees and there's birds and there's animals. What does that have to do with us? How do we know that it has anything to do with us? Have you ever looked at a picture of Earth? These are the pictures that they give us of Earth, what Earth looks like. These are real. Look at this is NASA observing Earth. This right here. That's what Earth looks like. And maybe you say, well, that looks like Earth to me. It's the real thing. Or maybe it's not the real thing. And maybe it's put in place to keep us in the game. How does the player in GTA not know if the sky is real or not? How does the character in The Sims not live as though it's the truth or not? And that's where it comes to another movie where it's called The 13th Floor. And this guy goes, they create this program where this guy's able to go into this fake reality that is simulating real reality. And he goes through all these different lives. And what is the idea behind these things? Is it just a nice sci-fi story? Or maybe there's something deeper to what it is that we're living. Maybe the truth is stranger than fiction, as they say. Well, let's go into why would this thing take place? Why would we live in a simulacra and simulated world? I would say to myself that if I'm playing a video game, what do I get out of it? Well, what I get out of it is whatever I learn from it. Maybe I don't learn anything. Maybe it's just for pure entertainment. But if I'm able to learn things about myself or about life through playing the game, maybe I'm meant to take that with me. And there's another film that takes place that's called Us, where basically, if you haven't seen it, there is another version of yourself that is mimicking out who you are. Now, how do we know who is the real who? Were the people that were unable to speak and didn't really know anything, who came from underneath the ground, were these the real people? Or were the people who were living out lives, going to work and making their children, were those the real people? Sometimes you just have to ask yourself these questions. What was the truth and what actually isn't the truth? And in all of these, right, where you're living out this life where you go into something and you live out a life as though it's real, even though it isn't actually real. And it has gotten so far from what actually is real that we don't even know what is real. You see what I'm trying to say here? And maybe the real us is somewhere playing a game that is this reality that we're living in, that you see me on YouTube on. And the real me is somewhere in a game with a headset on. Take, for instance, the movie The Truman Show. Why are there all these movies that depict us being in a life that isn't actually real? And everything is watching us. You know, kind of like Big Brother, the eye in the sky. Everything is watching everything we do. Or in your religion, that God is watching everything that you do. So be a good boy, be a good girl, because everything is watching you. It's like this thing is saying right here, we accept the reality of the world with which we are presenting. And maybe the true world hasn't been presented to you. And how do we get to the true world? How do we not stay stuck in GTA, where we play the game, we do the different things and missions in the game, and then if we fail at a mission, we die and we start over to do what? Complete the mission. What is the mission? What is your life's mission? Is it to get a bunch of money to live here and to die? Is it to have children and be family oriented and then pass whatever you have on to them, because eventually you will pass? What is the mission of this life? Well, if it's not the real life, maybe, just maybe, we're in a place like Dante's Inferno, where the true reality has been simulated and have become so far from what the actual reality is, where we just go lower and lower and lower into hell, or lower and lower, or further away from the truth, the true reality. I'm trying to get to heaven. And if I'm at this lower reality, how do I get to a higher reality? Well, I would say that the first thing you got to do is realize you're in that reality. And that leads me to the Matrix 4, which a lot of people didn't like, but I loved it. I thought that it was great, which is, you know, Neo gets wiped clean of his memories about who he is and where he comes from, and he has to re-enter the Matrix. To do what? Why would he have to re-enter the Matrix? He had to re-enter the Matrix to find out who he was. Because if you don't know who you are, then how do you know where you're going? So Neo re-enters the Matrix to figure out his true self, who he really is. And his memory gets wiped clean. Kind of like being a baby and starting and living this life. Well, maybe there's a way to exit it. Maybe there's a way for us to no longer be in this hell, and maybe we can get to a higher level of hell and a higher level of hell till we eventually get to the top. And if we eventually get to the top, what happens? We get out. And maybe that's what our job is to do here on earth, is to learn who we are, what we are, and get out. Don't be fooled by the simulacra. Don't be fooled by the simulation that is imitating the truth. Is it art imitating life, or is life imitating art? Your job is to figure out where you are, who you are, and get out. And evidence in your life will prove and show that everything that I'm saying to you is facts. It's valid. And if you don't want to believe it, you don't have to believe it. The truth doesn't need believers. The truth just is. So hopefully you can take some of the things that I've said to you and apply it to your own life and do your own research and become your own scientist. Because is this where you're at? And if so, where are you going? And I like to do this example whenever I'm talking to people about this. Whenever you think about whether something is real or not, all you have to do is close your eyes. Think of a house. Now, what color is that house? What color is the roof? Are there trees? Is there grass? Is there a fence? Now, that thought in your mind, how were you able to create that thought in your mind? And is it real? What if you had people running around it and doing things, making a barbecue? Are they real? Or are they just a part of the imagination that you have? The simulacra and simulation. I'm done.